So we are going to start with making the game. The first thing we're going to make is the board, and then we're going to display the board. Okay, so first thing, the board is a character array. Why a character array? Because character array can hold single characters like X, 0 or single character. So we will make a global character array called board. So we can save all the moves in there. In order to do something like that, what we need to do is we need to create a new this thing. So we will create a new Java project called Tic Tac Toe. Then once we create the Java project, we don't create this thing. So we have a project called Tic Tac Toe. We're going to call the thing as, we're going to call it new class. Let's call it Tic Tac Toe. Tic Tac Toe, and then we'll have a public static void main. So there you go. So that's what we are doing, is we are creating a Tic Tac Toe. Then we create a public static character array called board. Okay, then what we do is we define the board as characters, which essentially, just for checking purposes, we'll just create characters. So we have to create a board of size 9. That means it'll be 8 in size. So let's count the characters. So I'm going to say 0, X, and keep in mind it's single quotes for characters. So I'm just going to copy this and just make the characters. So how many do we have? 8. Then let's do one more, 9. And then let's close. Okay, there you go. Why is it not happy? It doesn't look very happy. So give me a second. So what we can do is essentially put the initialization of the board here, basically where it actually sets up a board of size. So we set up a board of size 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, and then in order to, so let's make sure that this actually works. So there you go. It actually works. And now what we can do is we can actually use, so as it's a global, we can actually use it. So let's do this guy. Okay. SYS system out print. So let's print out the first character. So it prints out O. Now assuming I print out the first and the second character, so I can easily do it by 0 and say if I want to print out the second character, which is in the array. So when I'm looking at it, so it prints out this guy, which is the second in space. So this is 0, this is 1 and 2. So in order to make it easier for you to see, what we can do is actually put it in line like this, and it'll still work. So this actually makes it look nicer, because what it is doing is it is actually showing you what the board is going to look like. Now, the first function that we actually are going to write is basically the function which is called the function which is called showboard. So we'll actually write the function showboard. So we're going to say public static void, because we're just going to show the board, and then no input basically. So let's see. So the first thing we need to do is so we're going to do println. So that means we need to leave a line break. So what we're going to do is, so line break is /n. So we're going to leave a break, and actually print line with nothing is also a break. So this will actually leave two lines. So this will leave, we'll put a right space and then leave nothing in there. Then the next thing we need to do is actually show each of them, but we're going to put a tab there. So there is some space plus, let's do board 0 plus, there is a symbol which is basically like two vertical dashes over the slash. It's close to enter. So we're going to use that. Plus it's the pipe symbol. It's called pipe. So we're going to use that, and then we're going to say board 1 plus, we're going to use that again, plus board 2. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. Why is it giving an error? Because this is a character, this is a string, and we are adding this to be the string. So we just need this guy. It has to be in quotes so that it works right. So let's see. So we got that. So now let's see. So it's not printing because we are actually not showing board. So we're going to remove this guy, and then we're going to say call show board so that we can test it. Okay. We're calling that function show board, and what we see is 0x0. Now they're very close to each other. So now we need to do is fix it up. So what we can do, we can add a /t, and we can add a /t, and we can add a /t, and we can add a /t. So let's see what it looks like. So it'll give you spaces. Oh, it's too much. So just to make it easier, we're going to just do a space and a space. So it looks nicer. There you go. Okay, there you go. So that looks much better. Now we need a horizontal line. So how do we make a horizontal line? So what we do is we have to use a Unicode value, because if you put the underscore, which is basically that you use in your email, the underscore, that will make a line at the bottom. We don't want to use it. So what we're going to use it is use the, we're going to look for dash in Google, DASH. So once we look at dash in Google, it's a Wikipedia article, which actually will, if you go down, that shows you different types of dashes. So what we are going to do is we are going to copy the horizontal bar, which essentially is Unicode 2015, copy that value and add it here like this. Now it'll ask you to save your file as Unicode, which you should be okay to, but I'm going to copy this line here, put this line here, and take this value. Otherwise you'll have to type the Unicode value. So you don't want to be doing that, correct? So you just do this, and then let's see how it looks like. So it'll ask you to save as UTF-8. You do save as UTF-8, which is fine. And you try compiling it again. There you go. So now you see the line. Now why is there a problem? Because you need a /t, you know, to make the tab at the beginning. So it gives you enough space here. It gives you enough space here to actually move that. So there you go. So now, so it doesn't look that. So I'm going to reduce the size a little bit. So it's the same length, a little off by 1. So there you go. Now see, we have a problem here. The problem is basically the slash is not continuous. So we are going to put a slash here. We're going to put a slash here. Let's see if it actually works. There you go. So it looks slightly better with the slash, but we need one more of these here. And we need one more of these here. Now that doesn't look that well, but what we can do is we can put a space after tab. Essentially that way it will match up and it will be in the center. So there you go. So then the next thing we need to do is put the next row in, which is going to be board. If you look at it, it'll be 3, 4, and 5. Those are these values. Okay, so that's what we are trying to do. So let's see. Okay, so that looks much better. We can copy this thing here. There you go. So let's see what that does. Oh, there you go, another line. And now we need to do the last row, which is essentially this row. So let's see if it does this row. This will be number 6, number 7, number 8. So let's see. Oh, there you go. Looks much better and looks very nice. Looks like what we have in the example. So there you go. So that gives you, and in order to make it even nicer, let's put a space at the bottom also, so there is a line gap when we actually show that. So this is essentially showing your board. Okay, so this is showing your display board, and this is what we want to do. Now the next thing we need to check is if, so the next function we are going to write is check board. Now, so assuming I want to check the board, so how do I do that? So I say public static void main boolean, which is basically check board. So check board, and in order to check the board, why is it not happy? Because we need to return true or false. So we're going to return false basically by default, and then we're going to check though. If board 0 is equal to board 1 and board 1 is equal to board 2 and board 0 is equal to character X and board 1 is equal to character X, and so that means what we are doing is we are making sure the whole line is basically X, the whole line is X, and so if that is true, that means all the 3 values are true and all the 3 values are X, then we return true. That means it is, so we say true. Okay, so we are checking if the board is actually, so what we can do is we can check this function. We can say check board. In this case, will the answer be true or false? But we need to print this out. So system dot, so we are checking the board and we are printing it out. So let's see, will this board be, so are these 3 values X? They are not. So this should return false. Now assuming I change this to an X, X, and X, this should return true, correct? And it does return true. But if I make this 0, like O, then it will return false. Now, assuming all the three values are 0, so we need to check for the same thing. We need to check all of them are equal, but all of them will be 0 or O, essentially in this case. So let's see. So right now it's going to give you false because it's not going to work. Now what I can do is I can make 3 of them O, then it should give me, it should check in to be, there you go, true, because all the 3 of these values is O. That said, this is part 1 of your project. We will continue with doing checkboard in the next part.